I like to believe that I have a good understanding of factory games and upcoming factory games, but somehow Factoroids slid past me without me knowing. Factoroids is a 3D factory builder about harvesting and producing items in deep space on asteroids and moons and planets. And we do this through the use of the mothership and the robots that come from there. And today, thanks to Factoroids for sponsoring this video, I'm going to show you the basics as well as some of the campaigns later in the game without spoiling the story before setting up my own sprawling colony and mega base. So if you do like this video, hit the thumbs up, and if you want to play the game yourself, check out the link in the description below to the Steam store. I'll also be giving away some free keys, so let me know what your favorite aspects of the game are in the comments below, and perhaps I'll be sending a key your way. The whole concept of this game is it's based on a 3D asteroid. And so you have to build on these various blocks. You can destroy them, harvest them for your factory. Now we're going to skip through the tutorial and get into a slightly more difficult part of the game so that you can see the basics once we build our mothership, which you can see just here. From here, everything begins. When it comes to the campaign missions, it starts you off very simple. There are, I think, over 14. I think there's more than that, but originally there were 14 missions. We're going to go into one that I did earlier. So we're going to start off with, let's go with the moon colony. As this is one of the initial missions, I do want to just show you the basics. You can see that we're actually on a much larger piece of land, the moon, and we're just making sure that we've got everything up and running. We want to start a colony. So the game starts off with you producing resources. We have our miners here producing ice, and all the power at the moment is being done by solar panels, and all of the building is done by this little chap here. So this is a robot, and from here we're able to select the various buildables. If we go to the objectives here, it tells us basically that for this we're going to start up a colony, and for that we're going to have to set up what we need in order to produce a colony, which need to be placed on concrete slabs. To do that, we need to take the ice, which you can see here, use refineries to melt that down into water, then combine that with a mine of rock to produce concrete, which is then dumped in this section here. So I'm going to very quickly give you a little bit of a breakdown as to how this works. If we press the tilde key, we can grab the builder bot. We can actually get more. In fact, it's probably best that we start off with placing another dock, because that will allow us to have 2 bots, which will allow us to speed up the process. In this section here, we have the various buildables that we have unlocked currently. There are more, but you can see we need this refinery. We're going to try and be smart here. I've placed 4 refineries. These ones are going to be set to melting ice, and then these ones will be set to concrete. But for concrete, we're going to need a rock. We're going to grab the mines here, and we're going to place these directly into these 2 refineries. So they're going to be producing the concrete for us, and then we're going to place our pipes, and we're just going to let this do its business for the time being. When it comes to the belt work, we can either place down belts and run them as we want, dragging them across, or I should also mention, if we hold down the shift key, it will mean that the connections are not currently selected, which means when we grab a conveyor belt that's not set up, we can press the mouse key and select which way the belts go. Now at this point we have ice being melted, and we also have the rocks being mined going to our refineries for concrete. So we now need to build conveyor belts to take the concrete over to this section where it will be dumped into here. And the reason why we're dumping the concrete is that it allows us to build blocks. And if we click on it, you can see this is the amount of concrete that we need to dump in order to produce a block of concrete. An interesting thing about this game is if we click on the blocks, you can see in the bottom center, we have a certain amount inside each of these blocks. So these miners, they've got 360, 285, 223 blocks of ice that they can mine. And once we fully exhaust a block, we can destroy it. And then underneath, there'll be potentially more rocks that we can harvest. But you can see if we grab the seismograph, you can see that there are various resource nodes. You can see these on the outside, but the seismograph will reveal them if they're underneath as well, which for this particular mission, there isn't. But with the missions, I find it really interesting because each one is its own puzzle. Oh, let's connect these up. And now we will see all of that getting dumped into these spots. And you can see here that this is about to be built. We need 100 concrete and it should be, there we go, done now. This allows us to build onto this for the colony buildables, which we need to start off with a supply hub. We need to have a supply hub bringing in the resources so that it can go to the habitat modules. And then once these are built up, we're going to be working on the colony modules themselves. At this point, we have all of our concrete slabs down and we also have our supply hub. And from here, we are going to have to provide this with oxygen, water, and also an output pipe for the waste, which you can see here. We're going to do that by grabbing a conveyor crossing and then run a landfill just here. Next, we need to think about water. Now, we have been producing water here. We don't actually need concrete anymore. So we could repurpose this by demolishing these and then running the pipes directly along to here. And then at this point, we're going to need to cross. So we'll need to grab a pipe crossing. Then we'll run this pipe into the colony. The next thing that we need is oxygen. And in order to produce oxygen, we're going to have to grab some more ice, turn that into water, and then we need another refinery and place this directly next to this one. And this one will be set to the hydrolysis. So it's taking water and turning it into hydrogen and oxygen. So we're going to have to transport the oxygen to the supply hub, and we're going to have to take the hydrogen along this route, and then we need to cross over here. So we have a belt crossing, and then we have a pipe crossing. And we're going to run all of that hydrogen into here. We've now got our water running here. We're ready to start producing oxygen. It needs at least 2 output belts. Oh, this is why. There we go. Sorted it. But we now have our supply center built. We have the water and oxygen being produced. We have hydrogen being sent off to our hub. But the next thing that we need to do is build our habitats. So we're just going to place 3 of these here. They will allow us to hold humans. But now you get an idea as to how all of this runs. We're going to jump over to another campaign mission. In this next mission, we have been given the opportunity to head into the asteroid belt and build an asteroid. And I think this is where the game really takes its own, like it builds into its own. And by that, I mean, this is a 3D based builder. You can place your, say, our landing ship here on any of the sides of the asteroid. And you have to pick where's best. We can look at the seismograph here. We can see that we've got silicon under the ground here. We've got a load of iron up here. Now it's going to make sense for us to place the hub, the mothership, near this, but also we want it to be out of the way of the factory. So I'm going to do it, let's do it over here. We now have our mothership placed down, and from here we can look at our objectives. So for this, we're going to have to build a basic mining colony, which is going to produce rock for us, ice, carbon, iron, and silicon. And this is pretty simple. We're going to start off by grabbing our work bot, and we're going to produce the rock and the iron. And we're also going to want to place storage by these as well. And then we're going to do the same with the ice over here. But in order for this to run, we are going to need to get some power. This brings the next part of the puzzle to the game. So on these sides, you can see we have 100% sunshine. But if we go on the dark side, we have 0%. So if we want to have power, we're going to have to prioritize power on this side of the asteroid. At this point, we are now producing our ice, our rock, our iron, and on the far side, we've also started our silicon production. However, we now need to produce carbon. Now, carbon is made from combining, if I remember rightly, should probably check this out first. If we grab our yeah, here, smelter. So what we're going to do for the carbon is we're going to place down a mine here. And then we're going to run that into a smelter and then again to storage. And that should, if we select the recipe, allow us to produce carbon. And we're also going to do the same with silicon as well. And the thing that I find interesting about this game is it is such a puzzle with the 3D aspect to it. You have to play around with space. And obviously we have a lot of space here, but on smaller asteroids, you really need to pick your placement, otherwise you're going to really struggle. But at the same time, it is so chilled. You can just pick it up and play it whenever. You're not really going to need to invest too much time learning the game once you get the understanding of the basic logistics. And we have iron being produced, we have carbon being produced, and last but not least, we now have our silicon being produced. And we're now ready for the next objective, which is steel and glass. Steel and glass are made in the factories. So steel is going to be combining iron and carbon together. So we can place that down here. And then the glass, if we just look at the recipes again, requires rock and silicon. So we're going to do the same on this side. Grab our factory, and we're also going to grab a mine for the rock. We're now producing steel and glass, so we're ready for the next objective. But one of the things that I love about this game is you can't just go ahead and build beautifully clean factories. This is about adaptability. You see here we have a rock mine which is out of resources. So we're going to have to destroy this. And from there, we have to rebuild in a different location. Thankfully, we have plenty of resources here, but it just means that no matter how well you plan things out, it doesn't really make sense to do that because you are going to have to rebuild and demolish and change positioning of things. I figure that having two sets of storage is probably the better option, at least for the time being, because we don't know what we need to do with the resources. We have enough space, so hopefully we'll produce all 10 within the first minute. Nice. So we're now ready for the next thing. We need to store the 200 glass in the mothership and export it. And the same goes with the steel. So this is going to be a case of running the belts all the way to the top. We should probably start with steel, with it being next to the mothership. We should bring it up this way, just bring it straight up. And we're just going to let this build up for a bit. And once they're ready to export, we'll be able to move on to another mission. Well, that threw me off. I hadn't realized all this time. Obviously, we had 100% sunlight here. We now have 53%, and that is because we are obviously rotating around. So we now need to place some more solar panels. But guys, let me know in the comments what you're most interested in about this game if you want a chance to win a free key. I've got a few that I'm going to be giving out, and I will get back to you in the comments and ask you to connect with me on Discord if you win the key, and I will be sending the key to you. We can now export all of this by just clicking here, and we're done. Off the mothership goes. Anyway, let's head over and have a look at the other missions, such as this one, which is set on Venus. Now, the lava around us we can't build on, so we have to cool down the lava in order to build out in any direction to harvest the resources that aren't currently available to us. For this, we're going to have to import water because there's none available. So we're going to have to export these resources that we have available by building a spaceport, which is here. And to do that, we're going to place this down, say here, make sure that we have an input line for hydrogen because that's what's going to power the space rocket. And then we'll be sending various resources into this in order to send it off. At this point, we have our spaceport and we're now able to trade various resources for ice. However, we cannot use the spaceport without hydrogen fuel. So we're going to have to import the ice, turn it into water, then turn that into hydrogen and oxygen, and then send that off to space again. So we're going to build a mine to start off with. We could even do a silicon mine as well. We do it this way. We'll be able to produce the iron straight away and send that to the spaceport. Now that we're producing the iron, we can sell this and start trading. So we're going to export our iron, and in return, it will bring back the ice for us. And from here, we'll build our refinery. which will turn the ice into water. Then we'll need another refinery. We will send our oxygen, and we're going to choose the filter side, this one to be oxygen, and then this one to be hydrogen. And then hopefully we'll be able to start this running. And so now we've got a continual influx of hydrogen. We can start trading for other resources and then start expanding this outwards. As you can see here, we're going to need to build the freezers so that we can cool down the land around us. And once you've cooled down the lava, it will reveal new resources. I'm trying something here. We want this output to be just the iron, and then I'm going to build another line this way, which will just be ice. And from here we will build a belt crossing. Then this will go across to our freezers. And then here's hoping that these are going to be resources underneath, but unfortunately we can't see until we cool them down. There we go. And so we have now found some silicon ore. It's not a lot, but it'll be enough to get us started. The only problem is we need to get this somehow over here. We can do this. Gonna turn this into silicon. It'll allow us to keep expanding our options. You can see here how we're slowly expanding outwards, cooling down the lava in order to start building the factory and to pass through this level. But I don't want to show you all of this. I don't want to spoil it for you. So we're going to move now over to the main menu so I can show you some other things. In the play section, we have the campaign, which we've already covered, the free game, which allows us to create a procedurally generated asteroid and build from there. And then we also have asteroid hopping, which is a game mode which allows you to start off on a small asteroid and then move to other asteroids once you've harvested them. And it becomes a very long campaign to do. We are going to go into a free game though, so that we can check it out on a medium asteroid. We're going to try and build quite a cool factory and see what we can do with this. We'll go with a round asteroid, and we want a fair bit of ice, maybe a little less lava, and we'll start with that. This is the asteroid that we start off with, so we'll add the mothership here. Bear in mind we only have 25 rock. I would love to set up another bot dock, but that is going to use 15 rock in order to build, which we could probably use on setting up our initial factories. So we will start with mining some rock here and sending that straight to storage. Then I also want to place some solar panels here. We're now producing the rock that we need, so we're going to build a bot dock. We're going to place this down here. That should be fine once the bot has built the power, and this will just mean that we have 2 robots to build for us, which should speed up production. Moving on, we're producing the ice over here that we need to cool down the lava, but also over here we've got the iron running. This is going to a smelter and then straight to a factory, and on the opposite side we've mirrored this, but with rock being produced being turned into carbon, so that we're able to produce, if we press that, steel. And we're going to expand the ice now, as well as consider creating some concrete. At this point, we are producing concrete over here. We're trying to fill out these areas ready for a colony. Then across here, we are cooling down this, and it's revealed that we've got some silica and iron here. I think I've sussed out the best way to build these. So we're running 2 lines straight along in this direction, so that we can get the extra concrete out over here, and then from here we're going to build this out further as well, rather than just trying to fill in the odd spots. I'm getting to a point where I'm really comfortable with the concrete production at the moment, and as you can see, we're extending this outwards. This is going to be where our habitation is. I've also worked on another setup which isn't quite complete, but this is going to fill in this area, and we're currently working on power because, well, it's now shadow on this side, so we've got no power from this side of the asteroid. At this point, we have finished our concrete foundations. It's taken us quite a while, but now that we've got this built up, we're going to get started on the supply hub, which we're going to need to place somewhere probably probably here is a pretty good spot. What is missing? Glass construct. Oh, okay. That's the next thing that we need to do. Keeps reminding me that we have no glass, but that's what we are working on. So this is going to be producing the silicon that we need, and the silicon is then going to be combined with the rock here in these factories to become glass, to be then stored here. Now that our colony supply hub is built, we can start giving it power. We're going to need to get some more somehow. We might have to look into getting a fusion reactor on the go, but we can connect this up with power. And now we need to also feed this oxygen and water. We have both the components that we need for that here. Having built a supply hub, I thought it best to build some habitat modules. They were all going fine until, well, very quickly the garbage section filled up. It's filled up straight away, so we're going to have to extend this now. So we're going to grab a conveyor belt here, and just like the concrete, we will start expanding this way, and probably this way as well. Oh, I'm a little bit concerned that it's just going to very quickly grow. It would seem people produce quite a lot of rubbish. You'd think they'd prepared a little bit more before going into space. Bear in mind, it's only 5 people, but the good news is that is running. We have also set up a comm center. These particular research modules allow us to research things like increasing belt speed and other interesting projects, which are going to be really useful later down the line. But we do need to focus on getting more oxygen to our people. But you can see just how quickly you can, even this is a relatively large map, you can see how quickly the factory spreads. I think the last thing that I want to do in this video is work on deuterium. So if we go over to power, we have a fusion reactor, and you can see it requires silicon, which we have, O2, hydrogen, glass, steel, and iron. So it shouldn't be too difficult to produce. I think maybe here is best. Oh, I meant to press it there. We're going to get the worker bots to work on that, and then we need to get a load of refineries up and running to produce, well, we're going to need one to produce the deuterium, which is down here, the heavy water. And for that, we're going to need 8 water being flown into the refinery. We mine 3, actually let's add 4 sets of ice. We can then flow that into these to become water. If we grab our pipelines, we can flow it into these, and then this is will be producing the heavy water. So the last thing that we'll need to do is run that to there, and then connect this up to the power grid. I'm gonna let this run for a little bit longer, and we'll see how it turns out. Well, that was pretty quick getting that sorted. I was just looking over here. This has expanded once again, but I come over here and, oh, where has it gone? Over here, and we have built this fusion reactor, which is producing 50 power. So that has definitely given us plenty of power to play around with. And now we're just expanding on the factory. We've turned pretty much a whole asteroid into a factory. I'm pretty proud of what we've achieved. But guys, we're going to leave it there. If you are interested in checking out the game, do head to the Steam page. The link is in the description below. And you'll also find that there's a demo currently available. So check it out and see if it's your cup of tea. Oh no, our people are going to run out of oxygen. That is not a good sign at all. That is because I presume one of these has run out. Yes, I'm gonna have to fix that. But guys, if you are interested in getting a key, make sure to let me know what it is that you are most interested about this game. What is it that makes it stand out from other factory games for you? Special thanks, of course, does go to Facteroids for sponsoring this video, as well as all of our amazing supporters over on Patreon, most notably our Solarclipse patrons, James Irwin, Firefless, Trebor, and Beowulf, as well as our Lunars, the Calamity, Ben, Star, Shoku, the MN Wolf, and that dude AW, as well as our Blood Moon of the day, which today is Papa Snoozy. Until next time, as always, ciao for now.